As a client of mine needed my input on a project.
Yes.
I told him not to buy. And I was like, it's too good to be true. How much is land in Lekki Phase 1? So because I do construction, I have an idea of the cost of the construction. You look at it, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
There's no way the right thing was done.
Yes.
And this person will be selling at this price. He bought the building against my advice. 5 years down the line, we had to bring down the building.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
This is a true story.
Yes.
You've just taken us through a little bit of what I would say is like a masterclass of the things that are very important during construction. Look at how you've deconstructed the structural aspect of buildings. How can a prospective buyer, he's non-technical at all, he wants to invest, he's heard all of these things, but he doesn't quite know what step to take. For the integrity of the building, what is that person supposed to do before investing?
Number one.
Welcome to another episode of Square Meter Stories, a podcast birthed by the Detail Apartments, where ideas, topics, and trends concerning real estate are discussed and simplified for your understanding. As you all know, no other asset class beats real estate. But to be successful at it, you have to actually know what you're doing so that you do not lose the investment. An idea behind Square Meter Stories, like we always say, is to demystify the many complexities, ambiguities, and mysteries surrounding real estate so that by knowing the right information, you can go at it and then be successful at your real estate investments. With me in the studio today is a friend, a brother, and also a developer that I'm excited to share this particular episode with. We're going to be talking about structural integrity of buildings in the wake of the many recent demolitions that have been happening in Lagos State. In person of engineer Venjay Bitrus Kambasha. My brother, you're very, very welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me.
And before we go ahead with the podcast, I would like to read a little bit of engineer Bitrus's profile. Engineer Bitrus Venjay Kambasha is a distinguished Nigerian businessman, a structural engineer, philanthropist, and aspiring politician whose life and career embodies excellence, service, and visionary leadership. A best graduating civil engineering alumnus of the renowned Federal University of Technology, Yola, he went on to earn a master's degree in civil environmental engineering from the University of Lagos and is currently pursuing a PhD in structural engineering at Convener University, Ota, Ogun State, Nigeria. As the CEO of VMZ Engineering Limited and Dove Liverme Properties, Engineer Venjay has led the design and execution of landmark projects across Nigeria, including luxury residential estates in Lekki and Ikoyi, high-rise commercial complexes, modern banking halls, and iconic worship centers. His technical expertise and managerial acumen have earned him recognition within Nigeria's engineering community, where he is a corporate member of COREN and the Nigerian Society of Engineers, as well as the Nigerian Institution of Structural Engineers. Engineer Bitrus, you are very welcome once again.
Thank you for having me, architect. Well, let me do.
Right, so let's just dive deep into it. Yes. There has been, and you as a structural engineer, you can appreciate this, a lot of rancor in recent times regarding demolitions in a very popular estate in the corridor of Ajah, Lagos State. Yes. And this is the hard-earned money of people. If anything, this has contributed to further erode the trust and confidence that people have in investing in real estate. I mean, how can people put hard-earned money running into hundreds of millions of naira into a property? They think everything is good, the title documents are in order, all the checks actually are in order, the building plan approval appears to be in order, but yet the building becomes demolished, distressed after a period in time, and they lose a lot of money. So what really is going on in Lagos State with regard to demolitions? What's your take on that?
Let me do. Once again, thank you for having me. This is a very interesting topic. It's a topic of a particular concern. Like you have said, it's not just about the financial losses that comes with building demolition and building collapse, but also the loss of lives, and the perception, the image that it paints concerning just not Lagos State, but the country at large. Lagos is synonymous to building collapse, which is not a healthy way to look at the state entirely. So when it comes to building collapse and people making investment in real estate, there are several factors that can lead to buildings being demolished as a result of them being distressed, or either because those buildings were built not in tandem with regulatory guidelines. So for buildings to be demolished, there has to be the several reasons that can sum up to that. One of the factors is for distressed buildings, and which is a major going concern. The idea of every person going into building development without having the requisite experience, without having the integrity to do what is required, is one of the key reasons why we're having those failed buildings. And then we have people that fail because they know one or two persons in power. They can navigate certain building regulations. You have people building on the canal. You know, city centers are carefully designed by urban planners and, of course, architects and other parts of the design professionals, so that the entire city is functional. But you have people who are building residential houses where you should have commercial hubs. And if you look at Lekki Phase 1, most parts of Lekki Phase 1 that are supposed to be residential are now turning commercial. You know, people converting existing residential building into commercial buildings. So these are factors that can quietly discourage people from investing in real estate, because, I mean, investing your hard-earned money and then 2-3 years down the line, the building is being brought down for whatsoever reason. It's not a healthy one.
Oh, thank you so very much. So, I mean, there are so many factors, like you rightly pointed, that can be attributed to demolitions, but I want us to pick them apart one by one. Looking at it, I mean, a team of professionals come together, or are supposed to come together, to erect a structure.
Yes.
Housing is one of the basic necessities of life. Yes. So as long as you have people, they're always going to have a need for housing.
Yes.
But like I said earlier on, people who have that trust and the confidence to invest in real estate do so for several reasons. Not only are they trying to have houses or roofs over their head, it's also an asset class that you can use in hedging inflation, you can use in building wealth, and you actually have the flexibility to do whatever with it in the future, you know, so that you can either possibly flip it or use it as a source of rentals, you know, to secure income over a long term. But from a design perspective, as a structural engineer, what are some of those things that you see on projects? You know, because, I mean, for context, this particular popular estate, you know, that had the issues where they had to demolish buildings, you see buildings that are tilting on their sides and everything like that. And it's not necessarily because the structural elements of the building are problematic. From a design perspective, what are the things that these developers or people who actually invest in real estate building their houses, where do they get it wrong, where a building starts to tilt on its side?
Okay. The building itself has several segments. The building can be separated into the substructure, which is popularly known as the foundation.
The foundation.
And then you have the superstructure. Anything you have above the foundation is called the superstructure. The most critical element of a building is the substructure, is the foundation. As a matter of fact, any issue you have with your superstructure, your beams are deflecting, there's always, you can have one or two solutions that can work perfectly. You can reduce the span by introducing steel columns. You can, increase the depth of the beam. You can rework it. But when it comes to the foundation of the building, very rarely can you carry out any remedial work. So in terms of developers, one of the major areas where they don't get it wrong is people there's a term called cost saving. Number one, people ignore to do subsoil investigation, which is commonly known as the soil test.
Soil test, right.
So for reasons of cost savings, this is about $1 million or $2 million to conduct a proper soil investigation. People tend to ignore it. Number two, they are not fully aware of the implications of not having a proper soil investigation that can give you an information that can do a proper foundation design. And thirdly, people trying to save time. You know, it takes 1 week for you to do your on-site sample taking, whether you want to do a CPT, SPT sample, and then, of course, you have to do a borehole that usually goes to the depth of 30 to 50 meters. You take the sample, you now take them to the lab, which takes about another 1 week or two to analyze, and people are not that patient. So that's the third factor. People try to navigate that because of time. And fourthly, people assume my neighbor is building a raft, so I can decide to place a raft. It has worked. You know, there's this perception that, oh, for this area, raft has worked. But by nature itself, the soil itself is heterogeneous, meaning that the property changes within certain radius. You can do your soil test and you're doing a 2-story building on the same land.
Yeah.
And raft of 1.2 works.
Yes.
You can go to the next land and that same specification doesn't work for the same loading. So I'll give you an example. We did a project on Mambila Close about 9 years ago. We did, the client brought in a soil investigation company. They did a soil test that suggested a pile to the depth of 26 meters.
Okay.
But we questioned that because next door to us, just the next land, the building, the same 2-story building, and they're doing a pile to the depth of 12 meters. And
that's like a 14-meter difference between one site and then the next site to it.
I mean, we're talking about the sites that we're sharing the same fence.
Right.
So I brought in my own team to do that investigation.
Right.
And we're suggesting, the report suggests that we do a pile of 28 meters.
Even more than what was originally designed.
Because the site has a pit.
Okay.
Pit is a term in civil engineering, geotechnical engineering, to refer to dead organic material.
Okay, so pit is PEAT.
PEAT, yes,
right.
pit.
Right.
So to the depth of about 22 meters.
Right.
You know, we had a pit of pit entirely. So we have to navigate that.
Yes.
It gets to a more firm and a stable soil to place your pile.
Yes.
And of course, we had to do a CFA pile, not the normal board pile. So, and we had to do a third report, which confirms that the pit of 22 meters exists. And therefore, so we had to insist and do that. So if any developer is adopting, because my neighbor is doing a pile of 12 meters, so I can adopt it. I don't need to waste money for soil tests. So those are the severe consequences. See, the soil investigation report, sometimes it could be on the positive side.
Yes.
And if you're doing a foundation, or if you're doing pile foundation, and maybe a general area, some areas you're doing pile foundation, and you do an investigation, and if raft can work based on the loading of the building, because there are two factors.
Yes.
The bearing capacity of the soil.
Yes.
And the load coming from the building.
Yes.
So you now need to check, can this foundation type carry that? So once that is balanced, you can now, it will tell you the foundation type to be used. So not just because of what is generally used in the area. So those are some of the critical factors. Foundation, soil investigation, which is one, is very key.
Yes.
I know I've taken time to talk about it, but it's very, very key because that's the foundation of any problem.
It's so fundamental to the construction of the building.
And then you come to the actual execution of the project. People rarely hire professionals on the project. We've been we've studied at the Institute of Structural Engineering, we've studied reports on building collapses. Most of those buildings were not supervised by certified structural engineers.
And there's a difference. Certified.
Yes, certified.
Not, I went to school and I happened to graduate as a civil engineer. It's certified.
Yes. So we don't have key professionals on that project, and it doesn't take that much. And people tend to not hire them in the name of cost savings.
So the few millions that they save today, they usually pay with interest, with losing hundreds of millions or even billions due to the failures that will happen, and may lead to those collapses or demolitions later on.
And not just the money losing, but the reputational damage.
Oh yes, that is one very big factor.
reputational damage.
Okay, let me try and deconstruct, you know, for the sake of our listeners. I mean, you've said so many technical terms here, but because the aim of the podcast is to educate the investing public, to make them more aware so that they can actually make better decisions that will save their investment. I want us to deconstruct some of the things you've said. The popular notion that an investor would take when he sees a building project would be, they have done filling on the land. And you know, Lagos, particularly where we practice mostly, is a coastal city with high water table and mostly terrible soil condition. That is a fact. It is not going anywhere anytime soon. As long as we're in Lagos, we'll continue to deal with this kind of problem. Now, a developer comes and sand fills. There's a notion that says, allow the sand settle for years before you start building on it. Tell me why that reasoning is very faulty, because that is actually, I would say, the basis of the problems that buildings have. When you have structural issues or when you have buildings that tend to sit on the side, they say they didn't allow the feeling settle, which is why this is happening. Tell me why this is fundamentally wrong.
So essentially, that notion is like you said, is completely wrong, because when you fill a land, there are so many ways to compact it to achieve a required
bearing capacity.
So I can decide to fill my land, and I bring a compactor. Depending on the tonnage, I can bring a 20 tons compactor, a roller compactor, just like road construction. So people construct road, and then when you excavate, and then you excavate and take out the
but people don't take out material.
For road, for some places.
For road. I'm talking about for buildings.
No, I know. So when you import a material, even on road projects, you bring a ruler, depending on the tonnage, to achieve that compaction. You don't wait for it to achieve the natural compaction in 1 year. You know, leaving the land for 1 year does not guarantee that you're achieving a certain level of compaction.
Absolutely.
You can compact manually. It doesn't matter.
But sorry to cut in your bichos. Where I want you to actually paint a good picture for people is, you mentioned something called PEAT, P-E-A-T. Now, the building that is going to come on a particular land has a certain weight and load it's going to impose. What people would do, or the mistake, and I really want you to make this very clear for people, is, so somebody comes and then says, oh, this is a waterlogged area, or I can see some swamp. He fills it with sand, and everything appears dry. Oh, look at dry land.
It's a dry land. Of course,
it's a dry land. It's a common term.
It's a common term.
And then,
it's a
of
very
course,
dry, sweet
the
land.
unsuspecting investor comes and says, oh, of a truth, this place appears to be dry. All I can see is sand that appears to have been delivered, and they have spread it. Now, this person now wants to develop on it, forgetting the substructure or the heterogeneous nature of land, that what is below what you're stepping on matters more than what you see with your physical eyes. So I want you to actually educate people why this soil test still trumps whatever it is that they see with the physical eyes, because you must know what is happening underneath. And that's why I want you to actually deconstruct why that notion of, oh, they have filled the land, it has settled over time, or we have compacted it, why that is still wrong, why the appropriate thing has to still be done.
Okay, so just like, I'll just I'll give you a scenario. Just like you go to a doctor, and then, you know, you can appear to be healthy.
Absolutely.
But when you go to see a doctor, he will subject you to certain tests in the laboratory.
Certain scans, seeing what is inside. Things that cannot be visible with the eyes. Correct.
And sometimes you have malaria, it can't be written on your face.
Definitely.
Sometimes the symptoms are mild or they don't even show.
Correct.
You can have certain ailments that they have similar symptoms. So you cannot just really assume. Same goes for buildings.
Correct.
Every site for any construction you want to undertake, soil test is a necessity, is a must. Whatsoever it's covered in the surface, by the time you carry out your soil investigation to a certain depth, it will reveal, samples are taken from the depth of each 1 meter.
Correct.
You will see the physical appearance of the sample. You will get to see the chemical properties of the sample, of course, being after analyzing in the lab. And then the compaction level, which is the bearing capacity. you will see it. It will reveal even the water table. So things that cannot be naturally seen with the eyes can be revealed by the soil investigation. In engineering, we say assumption is the lowest form of knowledge. You do not assume.
It's
You
facts-based,
investigate.
yes.
So
it's data.
you investigate.
Correct.
And trust me, the soil investigation is not expensive. It's not expensive.
Yeah.
Get certified people.
Yes.
Not people that will doctor results for you. We've seen people doctor results.
Very correct.
And if you're a very seasonal structural engineer, when you see results that have been doctored,
You know.
you will know.
Yeah.
Because this is science. It's not something spiritual that somebody can see, the next person doesn't see.
Yes.
It's not a revelation.
Yes.
Of course,
it is hard facts, right?
Before you come to a level to assume a certain bearing capacity,
Yes.
there are calculations you undertake.
Correct.
So if those things do not sum up, and that's why you need to do a confirmatory soil test. So soil test is a key, is a must. Whether you filled your land, you've left it for 10 years, you want to build, you must do a soil test. Your neighbor has done something similar to what you want to do, and he has done raft foundation of 1.2 meters or whatsoever level. You do not, it's not a copycat.
Thank you. It's not copy paste.
So it's not copy and paste.
Yeah.
You independently investigate. And when you do that, more than half of your problem is solved. And then we now talk about the use of substandard materials for the main construction. We go into factors like poor designs.
Yes.
I mean, people that have no experience in structural designs, undertaking designs, people trying to adopt other designs for other projects and making changes that have very severe implications. And people just think, you know, fortunately for some of them, people get these things wrong and they get away with it. Buildings don't just collapse like that just because you made one mistake.
Yes.
You know, buildings come down because of a combination of several factors. Because even in design, in material factoring, we have certain factors of safety that have been put in the designs. In some cases, 40%, even in load estimation, in some cases, 60%.
Yes.
You know, in our formulas, all of them have, even the formula for load estimation is 1.4 GK plus 1.6 QK. What it means is that for the dead load, you are adding 40% extra. For the live load, you are adding 60% extra. So what it means is that should there be any variation,
that factor of safety
still accommodates that to a certain limit.
To a certain limit, yes.
So for people to, for buildings to go down, a lot of combination of factors must have gone wrong. Even in soil investigation, the factor of safety for soil investigation is 2.0.
Okay.
Meaning, if the building can take a certain load, you give a room for twice that
load.
And so for buildings to come down, really quite a lot of several factors must have gone wrong.
Okay, so for the investing public, right, we are trying to help them understand these things better. The goal of the podcast is not to make them skilled structural engineers, you know, by all these terms, but it's to tell, or it's actually to emphasize the importance of hiring and engaging a certified civil engineer, a certified structural engineer, because when there's a project that you want to invest in, and you are not very sure, it goes beyond, I have seen that these buildings are standing. Due diligence is not just paperwork. Let us see the title of the property. Due diligence is actually inviting a professional. I mean, I'm sure over the course of your career, you've had people come to you to say, look, give me an independent assessment of what you see structurally. And without tests, right, there are certain documents you can ask for. You would ask, can I see the soil test report of this particular project? Even in many cases, I've seen clients ask for pictures of the various construction stages because they have independent people who look and just by looking, because your method of construction itself, the kind of precautions that are taken by developer are very necessary, you know, in giving the kind of confidence that you want as an investor to go ahead with a particular project. I want to give you a particular instance where I was involved in this project and I did the designs. We did the soil test. It was determined that the pit layer of the soil was, I think, probably around 14 meters. What you had from, I think, 2 meters to 7 meters was loose to medium dense sand. And on it, we're supposed to build a 4-story building.
Yes.
A 3 or 4-story, no, a 3-story building. Apologies.
Okay.
The structural engineer had looked at the report and had designed raft.
Yes.
But then again, on a second thought, he had his concerns and said, I'm not so comfortable that this building would settle properly. Because all buildings will settle after a while. But I mean, it has to be within
certain limits.
Certain limits. Now, with that sorted report, he actually insisted that the client do piles, because he said over the years, he doesn't want a situation where that layer of peat would give or would allow for settlements beyond the threshold that he's comfortable with.
Yes.
Although the client was actually saying, why would I want to spend this amount of money to do piles when I can actually get away with doing regular wrap, which is ground beams? But at the end of the day, reason prevailed, and the client actually opted for the more expensive option, because the money you save today that you think you saved, you spend several times over in trying to rectify a situation that you could have avoided. So I'm just trying to allude to the fact that the soil test report is actually very fundamental to the kind of structural design, that's foundations that are designed for buildings, and that which would actually protect that investment over a long period of time. So what would you say are the common red flags, for the sake of our investors, that you see in building construction as a structural engineer that should get them worried about investing in a building? Common red flags.
Okay, so it's a common fact that real estate is one of the best investments you can have, especially at this point in time. And we want to indulge even our viewers and every other person to invest in real estate, but we have to do it the right way.
Correct.
So invest into, you don't just buy houses because they are cheap. Price shouldn't be your leading factor for buying a house, which is because the investors are also part of a problem. The people want to buy houses on the basis of the price, not in terms of quality. So if you want to invest into any project, first of all, you require for certain documentation, not just building approval. You require the soil test. You hire an independent investigator, such as a very seasoned structural engineer and even an architect. So to look at the documents, the soil test vis-a-vis the foundation that has been designed, you look at construction pictures, and then you look at the stages. You have state certifications by government regulators and also other consultants in the project. It's a whole lot of construction team. In the project, you have the architect, you have who is the lead consultant, you have the structural engineer, the mechanical or the service engineers, you have the electrical engineer. And entirely, you have, for buildings that are even higher more, you can have specialists that are coming up, like fire engineers and all of that. So you also inquire. For you to invest, you need to ensure that this team that handle the project, they are certified. And you also need to, so your investigator will check what has been done vis-a-vis who supervised the project. The developer's credibility is very key. You look at the developer's track record.
Correct.
You need to look at what has it done in time past. How are those projects faring? And a developer should get concerned when any of this does not check out. When you have a project that is being handled by people that are not qualified, it's not something I can do it. I can do it. So a developer should be concerned, apart from your technical due diligence in terms of the land documentation. Of course, the building should have the title to the land should be good. And so the process of construction, you must demand and see. And sometimes from pictures, you can see that certain things were not properly done. POP design is not properly done, that can be changed. Your walls are not properly screeded, that can be
screeded.
You don't like the pin, that can be changed. But when it comes to the structural elements of the building, they are key. And unfortunately, at the completion stage of the project, most of it is covered. It's covered, Of course, the floor is tiled. The walls are painted and it's all looking good. The ceilings are properly lit up. So everywhere is looking beautiful. But just like a cancer patient that is well clothed, is properly dressed.
Yes.
You know, within the person, he knows he's dealing with something major. But
Right.
outwardly, people don't see that. Same goes for building. So
Yes.
developer must look out for, of course, physical. When you get into a building that is faulty, there is what we call the preliminary investigation. You have the visual inspection. You demand for certain tests, not just soil test reports. The concrete samples that have been taken during the stage of the construction, and you hope that those samples were not, and the results were not doctored.
Yes.
The steel, you know, just like for steel, people talk about the tensile strength of steel, not just the tensile strength. We look at elongation.
Elongation, right.
Is also a very key factor because
Yes,
it gives you a
yes,
sign
yes.
before the building fails.
Yes.
And of course, physically, you move to site, you look at for cracks, deflections in beams. You know, the slab is deflecting, the beams are deflecting, column is bulging, you have cracks on structural elements, and then you have major cracks on the walls. Those are things that should give the developer, the prospective buyer, concern, the investor.
Yes.
So, in as much as you want to invest hard-earned money into real estate, you must also take the pain of hiring the right people to investigate before making that buying decisions.
Correct.
Currently on a project in Lekki Phase 1, we have a prospective buyer that engaged not just a lawyer, but a team. They were asking for very vital documents. And any developer that is not comfortable when a prospective buyer is asking for those things, it means something is wrong.
Something is wrong.
These are
That's a red
documents
flag.
that you should have them. These are quality control checks you should put in place without anybody asking you for them. So it's a no for me.
And let me just come in here, you know, because any serious project, and by serious project, I mean any project that is worth investing in. It could be a bungalow. It could be a story building. There are certain documents that every building should have. It goes beyond, oh, I have an approval. You mentioned something, stage certificates. Now, the Building Control Agency, LABCA, they are the ones actually tasked with enforcing building practices. That's good building practices in Lagos State. And they are the ones that will actually issue these certificates to people who are building. So a developer who doesn't have stage certificates is most likely cutting corners. Because if you build right, there is no how, and you are regulated by those who are enforced to do so. You should have all these documents available for the prospective buyer to peruse. Like you said, you know, your project in Lekki 1, you have somebody who wants to buy. This is somebody who is a seasoned, definitely he has done this multiple times, or he knows the value of engaging professionals that can ask the right questions. And like you rightly said, a developer that cracks under pressure of availing documents that a buyer should see before making that decision is somebody who may not have those documents and may not actually be building right. So that red flag is actually one that people should be very wary of. You talked about something when it comes to reinforcement, you know, and that is one of the materials that a lot of, I mean, everybody knows a building must use iron rods. But tell me how important it is, you know, for a developer to use the right kind, you know, because we're not just trying to educate those who are buying, but also practitioners in real estate. There are different kind of iron rods in the market. And how dangerous is it to just order reinforcement and say, iron is iron, and as long as I can bring it to my site, I use it, it should be able to hold up. Whereas things may be fundamentally wrong. Why is that a very bad assumption?
So when it comes to, it's a terrible assumption, very terrible. So when it comes to reinforcement, there are three major things you look at. If you go on a higher technical discussion, it could be more, but there are three major things. Number one is the diameter of the reinforcement. We've seen with our caliper, vernier calipers, you check.
A tool for measuring the diameter.
So you're supplied 16 mm. And sometimes for all those locally produced steel, they are 14 mm.
Or even less.
They are even less, 14, 16. So, and for your design calculations, you use area of reinforcement. It's an area. So if I've used 16 mm as the diameter to calculate the entire area of reinforcement required, and they're giving me 14 or 13, that puts the building in danger. Second things you look at in the reinforcement is the strength. You look at the yield strength. when you look at it, that is the good. Of course, for the designs here in Nigeria, as we adopt the British Standard Code, the BS code.
Okay.
So it's 460 Newton per millimeter square. Of course, in most cases, you want to use local steel. You can modify from your calculations to use 410 or whatsoever.
Okay.
But the key thing is that make sure whatsoever you're buying, it's not below what you have used for your design calculations.
Okay.
And the third thing you should look at for when it comes to reinforcement is elongation. Why elongation is key is because it gives you a sign before failure.
Right.
So elongation must be more than 12%.
More than 12%.
Yes, minimum 12% reinforcement.
Right.
What that does is, for a slab that is failing,
Yes.
if you're using a reinforcement that has elongation less than 12%, it doesn't give you a sign. It snaps.
It snaps.
Yes. But a reinforcement that has an elongation beyond 12%, what it does that the slab deflects, you can see that there's a danger. It gives you a sign.
Right.
So if you need to do something to prop it up,
you can actually
reduce the span,
attend
you
to
can
that
salvage
issue.
it.
Yes.
So those are the things. So reinforcement is not reinforcement. We have to use TMT LCI. So we are not trying to, we will not suggest a brand. But the key thing is that before using those reinforcements, subject them to test.
The test, yeah.
You check those three things. You check the diameter, you check the strength,
and then the elongation.
Right. And it doesn't matter the brand. So we're not suggesting, for me as a professional, I'm not stick to a brand.
Yeah.
Subject your reinforcement to an independent test. Of course, from the factory, they will give you a meal test certificate that comes with the reinforcement if you're buying in bulk.
Yes.
But still take your samples and take them to an independent lab and check them for a building safety. That's just the key.
All right. So let the data always speak and guide you in using that particular material.
And you should file them, even if as a developer, as a building professional, without anybody asking. Yes, those things might be expensive to do, but you should have them handy.
Yes.
And because otherwise, in most cases that I've met investors that want to buy into building projects, and then when those informations are not available, we subject the building to a non-destructive test.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the non-destructive and the destructive.
Yes.
So we can subject the concrete elements, of course, to test, particularly the concrete element.
Yes.
And then for rebar, we can check the spacing using the rebar locator, but can't, except you want to chisel out and take a sample for test. You can't. I'm not sure we have any gadgets now that can tell us the strength of the reinforcement within
the slab without extracting it.
Yes, well, we have those ultrasonic tiles for concrete.
Yeah.
You have the ultrasonic test. You have the Schmidt hammer test too, for the non-destructive. And of course, for the destructive, you can insist and core a section of the concrete and take it to the lab for testing. So it's good for you to have those documents. This should be part of your quality control measures as the building progresses.
Thanks so much for that, because this is actually a call to developers, to actually have all these certificates and all these documents actually filed, because not only do you actually increase the reputation of your brand when serious buyers come into the picture, but it's also standard practice, and it also helps improve the delivery of real estate and also construction generally in the country. So thank you so much for that, Engineer Beatrice. Now let's talk about those who are looking at the government, so to speak, because you've spoken so well about what clients should look out for as the buyers, even what developers should do as good practice. But now, at the end of the day, when we're talking about structural failures, we're talking about demolitions, everybody seems to blame the government. Why is it not just the government because people should actually look inward. You've spoken to prospective buyers, you've spoken to developers. The onus is more on the person who wants to buy, because it is your money that is at risk. Yet everybody says the government is doing their own fair share. And let me just share some facts with you. So I was of course doing some study in preparation for this podcast, and I actually did find out that the rate of building collapses in a year is about 9 buildings in 1 year. Now, relative to the level of construction going on in Lagos, you may think that's a little number, but it's actually supposed to be tending towards 0. Okay, so 9 a year means it's almost 1.5 a month. Okay, what would you say, that people should, because it is not just the government in this case, it's practitioners. What advice would you give, number one, the investors. Number two, developers, right? What is that thing that people should do more rather than just heaping the blame on the government?
Okay, so it's having a safe and a stable building. It's a collective responsibility of all the stakeholders in the construction industry, both the developer, the prospective buyers. They need to keep them under check, and also the government. So it's we must have a sense of integrity. Let me quickly clarify that building collapse is not just is not peculiar to Nigeria as a whole. It's a global phenomenon. Buildings do collapse. And it is more prominent in Lagos concerning, 50% of building collapse recorded in this country is in Lagos.
Correct.
I've done a study on that.
All right.
So it's about 51%.
Okay.
It's domiciled in Lagos. And then the other 49-50% is spread across the country. So it's very key that the government, the Lagos state government, also has a role to play in terms of setting standards, in terms of regulation, and then enforcing those standards. So our integrity as Nigerians should be our guide. I think that's the missing thing. Being able to do the right thing, even when nobody is looking. Number two, doing the right thing, even when it is not convenient and profitable, so to say. The high competition in the real estate market has pushed so many people to engage in these several compromises. Mr. A is selling for 200 million, and I need to sell below that so that I can quickly get out of the market. And so people engage in ways to save costs, so to say, and putting the entire building project in the safety in jeopardy.
Correct.
And secondly, besides trying to edge the other people out, people engage in reducing the quality of that material, just simply because they want to not only maximize, but because I think it borders on the lack of conscience and integrity for me.
Okay.
I have seen some sites where I had to stop and, voice out my frustration, where you see people blatantly you're putting, and also just like, before I digress. So the second reason is people feel, let me sell and go. Whatsoever happens, it's not my business.
I've moved on.
So people have, yes, they've moved on. It's out of sheer wickedness.
Yeah.
That this building will not stay beyond 5 years, but you want to quickly get out of the market. People sign their papers and take. And indeed, investors must invest. They must insist. Prospective buyers must insist. The warranties are issued to them. Buildings are what you call in civil engineering life structures.
Yeah. Building
dams and roads. These are infrastructures that should last for minimum of 5 years. That's why we call them life structures. But you have buildings that are, in fact, collapsing during construction. You have 2-3 years down the line, the building is highly defective and is declared distress. So I saw a project. So I was to do a government project up north, and a part foundation was designed, and I saw a full lecture theater that was done not more than 2 years. A project running into billions.
Yes.
That has been declared distress.
Wow.
There's this crack from the top of
all the way
down. The building has been evacuated. Billions of money, because it's government money. Nobody is taking responsibility. It has gone down the drain.
Yes.
For me, I went there, I called I am the contractor. So I had to call the consultant. I said, I am redesigning this building to do a raft foundation. I'll spend more, but the building will stay. Of course, I took the pain and I did that. But I'm happy I've done that.
Yeah.
But how many of us can allow our conscience to guide us? And some of the projects, when we talked about building professionals handling the project, it will interest you to know there's a government project that's being handled just close to where we're working in that certain place. I don't want to mention the name.
Certainly.
And we observed that the person supervising, I saw that so many things were wrong. So I went there and I interacted with the person who is the supervising engineer. He said he is the engineer. He used the word engineer. I said, so where do you study? You study civil engineering or building?
Yes.
So he said, actually, that he learned
under someone
on site. And I was like, how do you learn engineering on site? So, do you have a degree in engineering? He said no. It will shock you to know that he's not even a graduate. He has a diploma in biology. Diploma in biology.
So a biologist now
Yes.
is not parading himself as an engineer.
He answers the name engineer on site. Of course, I had to call the head of the construction works and all of that in the institution. I said something is wrong, and you can see that it's glaring from. You can see the results from even the execution.
Like it's a disaster waiting to happen. Yeah.
And I asked him. I said, if you have a son in this institution,
Yeah.
will you allow him to go into this
Under
building?
this roof. Yeah.
And he said no. I said, so why do you allow this to go? I'm happy that they've stopped the project
Right.
and they've asked the contractor to comply.
Comply.
So those are instances where
Yeah.
we need to allow, our conscience. We have
Yeah.
to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I think it's. I don't want to say it's a Nigerian thing. We must imbibe the
No,
culture
it's not
of
a Nigerian
integrity,
thing per
doing
se.
the right thing
Yes.
when it is even not convenient,
Yes.
when nobody is looking.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you cannot put the lives of people in danger because you want to make money in real estate, because you want to build and then sell and then go. When people buy new buildings, you're changing door, you're changing this, you're changing all of that within less than 6 months. It doesn't tell good of our reputation as a people.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I mean, and this cuts across all stakeholders, that are involved in. And I like how you've spoken to the individual who is looking to buy, that's a prospective buyer, to the developer who is actually involved in the active construction, and even to the government, because there's a part where enforcement, must come in, because, I mean, it's easy to blame the government to say, where were they when they were building this? But then again, the onus is on the person who is buying, because if people do not buy structures that are defective or that have questionable backgrounds or histories, then developers will sit up. Right.
In terms of Lagos State building regulation, of course, which is chaired by the Lagos State Building Control Agency, LASFCA, they've been doing quite a lot recently.
Yes.
In terms of their availability on site, because one of the major concerns is that Lagos as a state is a construction zone.
Oh yes.
And they tend to get overwhelmed. You're asking them to come for state certification, and it's taking them longer time before.
Yes.
But I'm shocked. We have 2 projects that we're running now.
Yes.
One is in Lekki phase 1.
Yes.
One is here in Ajah.
Ajah, yeah.
And within 24 hours notice, they are available on site.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So
Absolutely.
lately it has improved.
Yes.
Many years ago, it wasn't like that. I had the project we're doing in Ikeja. We had so much loss of time on the project because we're waiting for
them to come certify the works.
It takes 3-4 days, yes.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmed, but I think they've overcome that.
Yes.
So the enforcement, they've been able to set clear guidelines in terms of building, and the enforcement, it's good.
Yeah.
But you see, LASFCA has given you state certification. You want to do your concreting.
Yeah.
LASFCA will not stay on site from morning till night that you're casting.
Very correct.
To check your mix ratio.
Yes.
It is your conscience that will tell you, do the right thing even when no one is looking. So those are the gaps that we're having. Yes, LASFCA comes to check your reinforcement, they check the columns, the beams, the slab, before you cast.
Yes.
But they are not going to be, even your consultants, except for some projects that sometimes
they are residents.
They're resident, yes.
Yeah.
So, and even when you're resident, will you be checking? One of the key issues we have is that 90% of the projects being done in Lagos, over 90%, are hand-mixed concrete, batching by volume.
Manual batching, yeah.
Yes, manual batching by volume.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the standard we have, the BS standards, are based on batching by weight. And very few limited construction companies have batching plants.
Yes.
And that's one area I'm working on my PhD thesis.
Okay.
It's on the concrete batching process, because one of the major problems we are having that leading to building collapse is that concrete.
Yes.
Reinforcement, of course, is factory made.
Yes.
So if you buy, you don't produce. So make sure you buy the right one, and then the spacing and the spacings and the required numbers are being placed.
Yes.
And they are being placed properly.
Yes.
So once you do that for enforcement, you're done. Of course, the formwork is just a temporary support for the concrete to gain some strength, and then you prop.
Yes.
So the concrete is the major element that is batched on site.
Yes.
So we must do the concrete batching properly.
Yes.
So That is where the key issue is. So yes, LabSCA comes to certify the stages, but we have a responsibility to ensure that we adopt the right mix.
Yes.
And no assumptions. Normally, just that some of those things are quite time consuming and resource consuming.
Yes.
So before you embark on a project, you're supposed to take, we do what we call trial mixes. You take the sample of the sand you intend to use for the project, the granite, and the cement brand.
Yes.
You know, strength varies from brand to brand.
Correct.
And then the water. So you mix this constituent.
Yes.
If you want to use a C25 grade concrete or C30 or C20, you use the available material to in a certain proportion and do a test to ensure that at 28 days, which is required, I'm getting the strength.
The strength. Yes.
So before you now adopt.
Yeah.
You know, people assume you're bringing sand from different sources and you're mixing and expected to get the right result, which doesn't work. So we must also look into those areas.
Why I really like, this kind of dialogue, is because you are able to show us that engineering itself goes beyond some person on site saying, I have experience for 20 years. I have been building since I was 15 and now I am 50. And so I'm an engineer. You've just taken us through a little bit of what I would say is like a masterclass of the things that are very important during construction. You've talked about foundations, you've talked about test certificates, you've talked about the main attributes of reinforcement that we should be very wary about. You've talked about how you should do the right thing even when nobody's watching. And these are the things that actually build up to having a structure that can stand the test of time for both the developer who has already made his own money and would sleep at night, and then the investor whose life is at risk, because the people who actually sleep in those buildings that come down are the ones who are most at risk. Not only is your investment at risk, even that life is at risk. So a lot has to go into this entire envelope, of construction and also real estate itself in ensuring that people's investments remain safe. I really like that. Then you also shared, right? I like your anecdote where you said you as a professional, you went to a site to interrogate those who were building and said, look, this thing I'm seeing here is not right. What are you doing? And then you actually scaled it up to relevant authorities to say, look at this particular thing. And, I think for us as professionals too, we actually have that obligation to question when it's within our powers to question certain things and say, this particular thing doesn't appear right. Because in some cases, the person who is most affected is the person who is most ignorant about it.
Yes.
For them, they are trusting that the right thing is going to be done. But when you call the attention of someone to say, look, I feel like this particular thing here is going to be problematic, and then he can involve someone. You see, for me, my own experience, right, is it is very expensive when you choose not to engage the right person. And the right person is that professional who knows a lot. Look at how you've deconstructed so many aspects of the structural aspect of buildings. People would not want to pay for this. The average investor. But the idea is always hire seasoned professionals to do that work for you, because you will save a lot of money in the process.
Yes.
Let's now go ahead, okay, this question is quite good. Now, how can an investor, a prospective buyer, he's non-technical at all. He wants to invest. He's heard all of these things, but he doesn't quite know what step to take. This due diligence goes beyond, the title of the land. But for the integrity of the building, what is that person supposed to do before investing?
Okay, so number one, the first thing he needs to do, just the way the client, the investor does not go to allow her to search the title. He hires a lawyer, a professional in that field. So if you're buying, it is advised that you hire a professional to investigate for you. The structural engineer or the civil engineer you are hiring knows the right questions to ask. And when there are red flags, he will say it. He knows the document he will ask. If he demands for construction pictures, he knows what to look out for. So the first thing is, beyond checking the title documentation of the land, is to hire somebody that can be your second eye and ask the right questions. Things like, let me see the construction documents. Of course, structural drawings, soil test, the stage applications, test for your reinforcement, test for your concrete for each of the stages. Can we look at the pictures? You know, is it a reflection of the design? Were there changes being made during this construction process, and how were the changes effected and documented? Are they properly documented and effected? Not somebody coming to say, oh, we are wasting money, let's change this. You know, so the developer, they need to help people. Not that you're buying because the price is cheap. They are the major, in my opinion, because they are patronizing very cheap substandard projects. They are buying POP, they are buying light. You know, the lights is so much paparazzi.
Yes.
Buying, you know, the staircase light.
It's like a facade now. I mean,
facade you're buying.
And ignoring the very thing that makes the building stand.
Exactly. So, you know, most of the clients, we've had this kind of encounters where they don't want to care you use a C25 concrete. They don't want to care whether you use a TMT grade steel. Rod
is rod.
Yes, for them, is iron is being buried.
Yes,
yeah. And people don't pay attention to the process.
Yeah.
They just want the product. And then, yes, your next door neighbor is selling for 200 bidon, and then you went and bought for 150. And sometimes
it's a great deal. I got a bargain.
Yeah. So, and sometimes a client of mine needed my input on the project.
Yes.
And I told him not to buy. And I was like, it's too good to be true. You have to yourself the question, how much is land in Lekki Phase 1? This is the current price of land.
Yes.
So they were able to build this unit.
Yes.
So because I do construction, I have an idea of the cost of the construction. When you put it
what
together,
should go into it?
Yes, what should go into it. And then you look at it, it doesn't add up.
Yeah.
There's no way the right thing was done.
Yes.
And this person will be selling at this price. You know, but of course he bought it. Unfortunately, 5 years down the line, we had to bring down the building.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
This is a true story.
Yes. He's a very well-known person, the client that bought.
Yeah.
You know, he bought the building against my advice.
Yeah.
And this thing happened. And we came and did a whole lot of, and we revisited what I told him before. At that time, we had to bring down the building. And he has to do a fresh building.
And you know, let me just come in here. And I'm sure this may not have been without some remedial efforts to salvage the building.
Of course. They were, so the building had cracks, there were deflections, of course. We did another soil test, you know, it revealed a 3 meters pit. So the building was settling at an uneven rate.
Yeah.
So you can see they've been patching, using reinforcement, using different chemicals and all of that. But like the Bible says, when the foundation is faulty, that what can even the righteous do? What can even the righteous do? So the same thing for the building.
Correct.
The foundation has to be right. So we don't. Yes, of course, people want value for money, but value for money at the long run is you buying a property.
Yeah.
The value appreciates and you sell half the property. But if you're buying cheap and less than 5 years down the line,
yes,
you've lost the building.
Yes.
Or the amount of money you will spend in salvaging the building.
Yes.
At the long run is more than even buying the right thing.
To begin with, very correct.
So you don't go for price, go for policy. Of course, we know people want value for money.
Yes.
So you had a second thing, hire the right person, the summary.
Yeah.
Let the person do the due diligence.
And then also follow advice. See, it goes beyond, because in this case, like this anecdote that you gave, the person actually brought you in. You assessed this particular project and you said, look, at the end of it, this is my recommendation. My recommendation is do not buy.
Of course, he was buying from a friend. So he was buying from a friend. You know? And so, you know, you hire a professional, but you trust his judgment more than a friend. So our opinions sometimes does not really count. Like the project I told you that they had to stop the project and all of that.
Yes.
I've been disgraced on many projects. Like something is wrong with this project and you go there, you're trying to help.
Yes.
And then the person is like, what's your business?
Yeah.
Like, I've been doing this for many years.
Yes.
I'm also an engineer. Can I shock you? I've also paid a structural engineer to look at my job.
No, that's peer review.
So
peer review.
for peer review, so it's something I had done all I needed to. Of course, my calculations were okay.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
building model
yeah.
checks out, but
Yes.
it is something I've not done before. So I had to engage him to look at it. And he's a very busy person because he's
Yes.
quite more senior than me. But I
Yes.
just realized that if I pay this person,
Yes.
he'll find time and look at it.
To look
which
at
I did
it.
that. And after paying him reasonable amount of money, he told me
Yes.
that everything was fine.
Right.
You may feel that money was wasted, but
No,
I
nah.
the
Is the
peace.
assurance, is the
Exactly.
confidence, is the peace.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So it's one of those things that investors must carefully look at
Yes.
for these things before
Yes.
putting in their money.
Their money. So I really want to thank you, because to wrap this up, people actually are not paying for the structure. They're paying for the confidence. They are paying for protection. They are paying for the peace that comes with parting with their hard-earned money.
Yes.
And all of that actually sums up to the fact that you must hire the competent set of people to do your checks. You must trust their judgment. And then, only then, can you safely invest or decide to pull out, no matter how juicy the offer is to the investor. Engineer Beatrice, thank you so much for coming on the program. I really appreciate you. And to our investors, I hope you've been able to salvage or get, one or two things from this particular podcast. A lot has been said here, and we look forward to your comments, your questions, and we hope to also bring Engineer Beatrice back in the studio in the near future, to take on another episode, because there's been so much to unpack here.
Yes.
But to the investor out there, to the developer out there, we need to do the right thing. We need to always judge the decisions we take by our own conscience and ensure that we make the real estate space one that is actually credible and safe to invest in. So until next time, this has been Square Meter Stories. My name is Architect Akinde Olamido. See you.